It is broad, and I think if you ask, you can ask as many planners as you like, and you'll get as many different definitions of what planning is, I suspect. It's a problem-solving discipline, really, I think, and it is pretty fundamental to everything we do because it's about understanding people, and it's about understanding brands, and it's about understanding how business works and sort of connecting all of those things through to come up with a really clear direction for communication. I think, like a fair number of planners, I actually started in account management. So I joined the GRAD training scheme at JWT, which is a great place to learn. But that whole role in account management is so broad anyway, and you inevitably do some planning, as great account management people continue to do, quite rightly. And that part of the job just ended up really fascinating me more and more, I think. So I fell into it rather more by accident than design, but I think that happens a lot. And I think because planners come from such a sort of variety of backgrounds anyway, it's quite hard actually to decide, as you come out of uni or before that and out of school, that you want to be a planner, because I think it's, it doesn't tend to be like that. I think a lot of people do fall into it. I think the industry is still quite hard to get into. I mean, goodness knows why there are enough nuts people who still want to join it. So I think there's that broad challenge, which is a real challenge for anybody younger trying to break in. But that's always been there, to be quite honest. It was always really competitive. Getting on the grad scheme thing I mentioned was really hard. There were lots of people, and an element of luck and skill and everything else. I guess you end up with a job. I think planning's probably particularly hard because of the point you made about it's not very well understood until you start working in the industry. It's definitely one of those things where, if you want to play a game, you can either read the rules or just start playing the game. And I think you have to just start doing stuff and seeing whether you're good at it. It's always going to be slightly hard, and I think just a sort of relentless pursuit is the only way to break the doors down. There is definitely no one-size-fits-all rule, so I'm definitely supportive of the grad scheme. We've got a really good one here, and we've got some great people in it now. We've got some great people in the business who are now quite senior who started there, but I think it would be a real mistake for people to think that's the only way in, probably particularly to planning, because I've certainly employed people who have done all sorts of different things, maybe for 2 or 3 years at the beginning of their career, but actually what you recognise in them is they were doing stuff that we would probably call planning. They probably wouldn't, because they might be doing anything. But that experience has actually got them to be a better sort of problem solver and a better thinker just by practically having to get on with stuff, whether it's something really entrepreneurial or there's a guy here who worked for Pizza Express, did all sorts of things. That is another way in. So I think people shouldn't feel disheartened if they're not a grad or they didn't get a grad scheme place, because that is, frankly, we work really hard to choose the right people, but inevitably we turn down people who we think would also be great. It's just you've only got a certain amount of room. So there are different ways in. It's a good question, because there's the whole mixture of things. I think planners are quite hard to interview, actually, because the skills can be quite elusive. So it's often better to get people to just come in and work through something with you, work through a problem. But I think that the things we tend to look for are an absolute curiosity about the world and about how it works, and particularly about people and what makes them tick, because that does remain at the heart of what we do. I think particularly sitting where we do in the sort of direct sphere, we do want people who have an understanding of the world of business and what makes it work, have some, again, interest and understanding in the world of data and how that kind of contributes. But the third thing I always look for is, I think, much like great creative people, great planners can sell their strategy. And I think that's quite an elusive skill. So I think there are a lot of very bright, quite boffiny planners who have a definite role, but where they struggle a bit more is to get up on their feet and look a client in the eye and say, I think this is absolutely the right thing for you to do. So having that ability to persuade is I think, a third criteria that's really critical and perhaps overlooked a bit sometimes. You need an intrinsic confidence to be a good planner. You have to be on that sort of borderline between confidence and arrogance, because in the end there are no right answers in our trade. There aren't. I think my perspective is the worst thing to do is to start reading business books and things like that. I'm not a huge proponent of reading lots and lots of stuff, which I think some planners do fall into the trap of. The things we encourage people to do when they start working here is actually just to be a bit nosy and go around and offer up some help, ask people what sort of problems are sitting on their desk at the moment, talk to people about their sort of current planning challenges and offer to help. So it's back to what I said about the rule book and the game. I think the best way to do it is just to get stuck in, is to grab a problem off someone and go, well, can I, I'll give that a couple of days, can I come back with some thoughts? And we tend to be quite magpie-ish as planners, so we're very happy, unless we're hugely aloof, which hopefully none of us are, we're really happy if people say, yeah, I think I can help you with that. So I think the best thing to do to get you started is to get started, rather than to feel, oh, I need to attend lots of seminars or read lots of books or read AdMap furiously or whatever. That's all fine. I'm not, it is fine, but you will never learn as fast as on the job. So I think the key thing to do is to be practical from the off. I think increasingly it is about sort of broadening your horizons. So as a trade, planning is certainly about some supreme specialists, and in this business, absolute data specialists, social media specialists, and people who have that really deep-rooted knowledge in an individual area, if that's the way they want to build their career. So that is one way to do it, is to become a supreme expert in a certain area. But the other way to do it, which tends to then, I guess, lead to more seniority around leading a department, is to broaden your horizons a bit, to learn about areas of the planning trade that maybe aren't the ones that are absolutely central to what you're doing every day. So if you're working with data a bit, spend more time with the data people, really get to understand how they work and what that means for you. If you're working in an environment where you're working with some smaller brands, then try and work with some really big mega brands to sort of understand what makes them tick. I think it is a constant sort of broadening process that you need if you're going to keep progressing. There's a really fundamental thing which makes me sound a bit of an old fart, but I think I always criticise people who don't really understand their clients' businesses. So certainly when I started, you kind of had to know what the market share of cornflakes was in the Anglia TV region. That was just, that was what you were meant to do. And I appreciate that, actually. I think if you know your clients' businesses inside out, sometimes better than them, you get that real indispensability, sort of free pass, that means you're valued by your agency, you're valued by your client, you are very, very likely to progress. And certainly I've worked with some planners who I just think, wow, they know that business inside out. That one of the things you absolutely need to succeed in this game is real resilience. So I think it's quite easy, because we don't have a right answer. I think it's quite easy to get knockbacks early in your career where you feel that you're constantly not necessarily coming up with the perfect strategy, and it's constantly being questioned, or someone more senior is constantly taking it and shaping it. But I think, like an awful lot of things in life, perseverance gets you a long way. So I do see some younger planners who get that sort of early career knockback and maybe then feel that it's not really, is it quite right for me, or am I really cut out to do this? Maybe I should do something a bit different. Whereas I think those who are, again, it's this sort of confidence, arrogance thing, but those who are confident enough to persevere and go, no, I've got something to contribute here, and are pretty relentless about it, are the ones who succeed.